Welcome to the Collide Kids podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey y'all, welcome to the Collide Kids podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. It means so much to me that you are listening today. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. If this is your first time listening, I just want to say welcome. I'm glad you're here. Be sure to listen to the end of every episode. That's where we have the kids only segment where kids just like you get to be on the podcast. Well, I don't know about your family, but in the summertime, my family still manages to stay pretty busy. Even though we don't have school, we have lots of other activities and good things, fun things that we enjoy, like family vacations and VBS and things like that. And so I found that it's just a really good idea for me and for my family that I take a break in the month of July. So I wanted to give you a heads up. We only have a few episodes left before I take a break in July, but don't worry. There are 127 episodes that you can catch up on. If you have not listened to all of them, I highly recommend that you go back and find the ones that you haven't heard before. I think you'll really enjoy some of the guests that I have had on my show. And you can take the Collide Kids podcast with you as you travel this summer and enjoy listening together as a family. My family enjoys listening to podcasts on long car rides and when we just all need to take a break from screens. It's just so fun to listen to something together as a family, enjoy some jokes, and have great conversations about the things we've learned. And I know I've said this before, but if you are listening to today's episode and someone comes to mind and you think, I need to tell this person about this resource or about this episode, then will you just share this with them, put it on your social media, send it to them in a text, or just as you're passing by someone, show them that you're listening to the Collide Kids podcast? It's just a great way to let someone else know that you're listening and that you enjoy the show and also that you're thinking about that person. I think that's a really great way to show someone you care. Well, today we're going to be talking with a very special friend of mine. His name is Dema Kohen. He is a native Ukrainian turned American citizen who has a passion for ministering not only to children, but also to those who minister to children. He is a pastor, a speaker, and the founder of Are KidMin, an online community and resource for equipping kids ministry leaders. Dema is also passionate about creating resources for parents to help their children experience God and develop a lifelong faith. I am so excited to share this episode with you today. And if you stick around, there's a really cool surprise at the end. So here is my conversation with my friend Dema Kohen. So it worked out that you can be here today.
That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Dema, I am so excited to have you on the Collide Kids podcast today.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen. It's an honor.
Yes. Will you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Dema Kohen. I'm a father to two boys, 6 and 9-year-olds, and we live in Southern Virginia as of last year. And as of 3 months ago, I am editor-in-chief of a brand new magazine for Christian families.
That's awesome. And I'm so excited to talk to you about that today. And the resources that you guys put out is so exciting. So this is going to be so good for lots of our families that are listening today. But before we do that, because this is a podcast for kids, I always make my guests tell me a joke or something funny. So do you have something for us today?
Yes, I knew that question was coming and I was racking my brain. I have a short-term memory when it comes to jokes.
Okay.
And my joke bank, my boys, have been at their grandparents for the last 10 days. So they did not replenish my bank of funnies. So let me just tell you, the first time I experienced a taco meal in America, my coworker invited me to her home, and there were tacos, and I was a guest of honor, so I was invited to go first. And I just remember coming to the table and just being overwhelmed because there were all these things that appeared to me like raw things sour cream and beans and meat and onion and cheese and lettuce. And like, what do you do with this? It doesn't seem like it's a complete meal. So I just politely found a way to get last in line.
Yes.
And I thought, let me just watch what people are doing. And here I am, a 37-year-old man. But because I came from Ukraine, we don't do tacos. I never experienced it. So I had to watch what do people do, the exact step by step. And it's like, oh, these are like Legos, only edible
Yeah,
Legos. You
that's
just
right.
like put it all together and then you wrap it up. So it just like was one of those moments where it's so simple, but I felt
Yeah.
like an infant and I was clueless. And so I just had to get to the back of the line and just watch and learn. And then I did it like people did, and I loved tacos. And to this
Yeah.
day, it's one of my favorite meals in America.
Of course. I mean, of course you love tacos. Tacos are fantastic, but you're right. It is like Lego food. It's so true.
Yeah, and
There's
there
so
were
many
no
things you have to
instructions.
put.
There was no booklet on the table that tells you what to do with it. And
Right.
it looked to me like a bunch of ingredients that somebody forgot to like mix together and cook. So I thought, I'm not going to make a fool out of myself. So it's always good to just be humble and step back and watch.
Yes. Yes. Watch how they put it together. That's so fun. I
Yes.
love that. Yes. Well, now I'm hungry for tacos, so I'm going to have to go make some. But that's really good that you learned that. Okay. So let's just talk about this magazine. So you are the publisher.
Yes, yes. The publisher, the editor-in-chief, the
Okay.
writer.
Wow. All the
Yeah, it's
things.
a brand new magazine. It's been only released, like I picked up all the printed copies just 3 days ago.
Wow.
So, yes, so when it's so new, you're like everything. It's me and my wife, and actually my two boys, they contributed to the magazine and they shaped what it is now. So, yeah, it's like a family magazine done by a family for the families.
I
Yeah,
love that. And I am a huge fan of magazines. When I was a kid, I would read different magazines. We loved Highlight magazine. Do you know what
okay.
that is?
I do
And
know it. Yeah.
yeah, so lots of fun things to do. And I always love getting that in the mail. So tell us about your magazine. What is it called?
Yeah, it's called What's for Dinner.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
That's an interesting name. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the tagline for our magazine is a family magazine that feeds your faith. And I
Okay.
know that as Christian parents, we know, yes, we are responsible to disciple our kids and pass a lifelong faith to them. But if we are honest, we are also worn out and we are overwhelmed and we are stressed out most of the time, and our to-do list is getting longer and longer, and our patience is getting shorter and shorter. And sometimes just talking about God and praying with our kids and making it real to them just gets pushed back,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easy to feel guilty. And I thought, like, I want this magazine to be like something that just you quickly throw together a meal. Like when
Mm-hmm.
it is in the family, like when my son comes to me and says, Dad, I'm hungry. What's for dinner? And I'm like, oh boy, I didn't think that far. And then you normally go like to your wife, like, hey, what is for dinner?
Right.
Oh, didn't think about it either. So it's like one of those things like we know it's coming, we're hardly ever ready, but when somebody asks that question, we like pull our minds together, we look at the fridge, we warm up some leftovers or quickly come up with something from ingredients that we have, or last resort we call a pizza place, and
Yeah.
dinner just happens and bellies get filled. And so I just wanted it to be like a magazine, like, yeah, let's acknowledge that we are busy, that our heart is in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we just don't know how to pull the spiritual meal together. So I just wanted this magazine to become one of those, you know what, let's just open it at any page and it will just spark a God centered conversation or an activity that just draws us closer to God. So that's where the name came from. Like, yeah, maybe it was unplanned, our prayers or time with Jesus but it just happened. And I want the magazine to be a catalyst for that.
I love that. And I love that idea. You're right. Like sometimes we just throw those things together for dinner, and it's the same with our faith. Sometimes we're not always prepared with a long Bible study. Families are so busy. And so
Right.
this sounds like an incredible resource where you could just open it up and it would start a conversation about God. How did you come up with this idea of creating a magazine for that? Why a magazine?
Yeah, that's a great question. It actually happened back in February when I first got a thought. Believe it or not, I got a subscription to Highlights.
Oh, yeah.
And I just saw highlights and all the beautiful illustrations and just stories and puzzles and everything in it. And I just remembered the joy I had as a child uh, interacting with the magazine, because I grew up in Soviet Union, which was very highly, very heavy on propaganda. So there was nothing like really for children. Like all the TV channels were very boring and all about communism and everything else. But there was a magazine that I remember just loving, and that magazine would transport me out of my reality, which was bleak and sad most of the times, just into this new world, new dimensions that I didn't even know existed. The pictures, the stories, they were like portals into a different world where I could be free, I could be a child, nobody controls what I think or imagine. Like it was really life-giving. And so like when I saw highlights, somehow the memory was triggered of the role that magazines played in my childhood, just giving me permission to be a child. Just to imagine and wonder and come up with the worlds and scenarios that were weird but funny and life-giving. And so, being a dad and a children's ministry pastor in the past, I thought, is there anything like this for Christian families? And I did a research, and I found that there were no magazines for Christian families. There is something for children, but nothing that like mom and dad and kids ages 4 through 11 could open up, and it just draws them in together. And so I thought, well, if there is nothing like it, I need to make it. And it was just a spark. So I want something like this that would nurture faith, that would bring families together, that will spark honest conversations, that would draw them closer to each other and to God. And so, as the thought came in February, and here we are in June. And as of 2 days ago, about 3,000 of these magazines went out to families in America and
Wow.
Canada. I have a few left, so you can subscribe to them, or you can order the first issue. But it's just to help the entire family to be that connecting point for them.
We'll be right back after this. Raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app. Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly what I'm doing as well. I know as a parent that anything that my kid does, I'm usually doing it with them or I'm sitting alongside them. And so having something that's a resource for the whole family, there's not a lot out there like that. So that's why I started the podcast. I couldn't find anything like that. And so I created it. And I think God loves when we do that, when we see a need and we use our gifts and the things God's put in us to fulfill that. So that's what you did.
Yeah, yeah, it's like you get this sense that you have a gift inside of you and a treasure, and it's not about you. It's
Right.
not because you're something special. It's just like it was given to you, and a part of you will die if you don't go through the process of bringing it forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say creating a magazine is fun, but it's also hard work, and there is a lot of risk involved, financial, and like, will people like it? Will they criticize it? Will it take off or not? And like right now, it takes half of space of my in my garage. So even in a practical little thing, like now my kids, like their bikes, the space that they used to have is taken up. So there are so many things that it inconveniences you, and maybe it would have been easier not to uncover this gift and offer it to the world, but you just feel compelled. Like there
Yeah.
is something inside of you, like this is what I'm here for. Like I want to bring this gift to the world. And so that's the joy and the driving force behind it, just to create something in secret in my little office and then just offer it to the world and just see how God will use it.
That's so amazing. And I love that you're putting all of this together yourself with your family. So how do you do that? Like how do you do all the illustrations and things like that?
Oh, I wish I could have that talent. My imagination is far surpasses my artistic abilities.
Oh, okay.
There are two things that God didn't give me. It's the ability to sing. I cannot sing a melody or a tune, even in the church. My wife and my boys during worship time are asking me to tone it down because I like to give it all,
Yes.
but I cannot carry out a tune, and they feel embarrassed. So they say, just calm it down. Just I'm one of those guys that makes a joyful noise. So
There you go.
uh, I cannot sing or play instruments, and I'm not artistic. Like I can do a stick figure. That's about all. But my imagination is so far beyond that. So I've been blessed to come across some amazing artists, and the lady that I've been working on this magazine, she's actually from Ukraine. She's in
Oh,
Ukraine. She's in Kiev. And so I just got connected with her, and she has a very unique style. Interestingly enough, something that she did not have this style before the war. She and I were working on a project before the war started, and when Russia invaded Ukraine, she had to flee with her family, and she could not bring her computer alone. So she only grabbed an iPad,
mm,
and she just felt so bad that we started something off that now she cannot complete. But because she was limited and did not have the powerful computer and all the software and all the capabilities, she just started experimenting with her iPad and what can she create just with the little resource that she has. And she came up with a brand new, just unique type of illustration that honestly I have not seen anywhere else. And it's really beauty that
it
came from
is.
ashes. And when I saw that, I said, I want this style in my magazine. Like it's recognizable, it's unique. And so we just started working together. So I come up with ideas and then I pass it on to her, and she always comes up with something that's 100 times better than I imagined.
Wow.
And it's such a special experience for me to know that there she is with all the sirens and air raids and missiles flying over and power outages, a place of terror and fear and destruction. And there she is just creating beauty. And I don't know, I did not ask her, but something tells me it also gives her kind of a chance to create her own world, like a world of illustration, a world where her characters reside.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so precious to me that I get a chance to live with somebody who lives in the place where I was born, who cares for her family, who loves her country, and who loves working with me. So together we create it. So I come up with the content, she makes it beautiful. Then my wife goes through it. English is my second language, so there is something that needs to be tweaked or corrected. Some of the things like stories, in every issue we have a story, so we write it together. So it's been fun. And then my boys are my quality control.
Yes.
So I keep it a secret from them, but then when about 80% is done, like I called him on the first issue, and my 9-year-old, he was very honest. He said that page and that page and that page, I don't think they belong in this magazine. And
Oh, wow.
and he gave me good reasons for it. And as hard as it was for me to hear it, and my wife was in support of that idea as well. Man, I was invested into those pages. Those were like 8 pages. And
Wow.
so a lot of time went into them and a lot of money already into creating them. And I said, you know what? I think you're right. And so I pulled them away and in their place replaced them with something that enriched the magazine and it looked cohesive.
Mm.
So yeah, so that was a process of our family working together, and I'll tell you, it was also so fun. This magazine has identity of its own, and that's my desire. I wanted to remove myself out of the magazine, so there is no picture of me or anything like this. I wanted the magazine to have its own identity, and for children and parents like to relate with the magazine. Yeah.
And I love how your 9-year-old was able to say, you know what, this doesn't fit. Like he could see how it was starting to fit
Yeah.
together. So
Yeah.
that's really great that, you allowed that feedback and listen to that. So that's good. Because you want the kids to be excited about it. You want them
Absolutely. Yeah,
to,
and I'm a grown up, so I
right?
lost some of that childlike perception, and just his way of looking at it was very helpful.
Very smart. And when you were sharing the story about the illustrator, and I think that's so beautiful that she's able to do that. It reminded me of the Bible story of when Jesus was given the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. He was giving something very small, and what he was able to just multiply it. And that's what God's done with her, that small gift, and she has limited resources, and God's
Yeah,
able to multiply that and give her something
yeah,
new.
absolutely, absolutely. It's always about just Moses letting go of his staff and it becoming God's staff, and that little
Mm,
boy letting go of his lunch, and David bringing his measly 5 stones and letting go of the armor, all the latest weaponry of the day. And God can really do a lot with little. So
that's so
that's
true.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when things like that happen, it's a reminder to you when God put this spark inside of you to do something for him. Then when
Right.
these pieces start coming together, it's like a confirmation, like God's showing you, I'm working on this. I'm doing this through you. It's not your own effort. It's because of
Right.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just so fun to say yes and to run with the project. And yes, I made a lot of mistakes. And yes, I'm already working on issue 2 and it will be different. But it's also fun, like just learning and failing and figuring things out, and just knowing it won't be perfect. But if we wait until we have everything figured out, we'll never start anything, I guess, in life.
Right.
So it just
So
was
true.
something like, okay, let's just take a risk. Let's just say yes. Let's pull out this treasure that God put inside of us. Let's offer it to the world, and then we'll polish off some of the things that need polishing. Yeah.
That's so good. Well, I love this idea of the magazine. And so tell me a little bit about it. It's called What's for Dinner, so families can subscribe to that. And then
Yes.
how often do they get an issue?
Yes, it's a quarterly publication. So every winter, spring, summer, and fall, there will be one issue. And it's a beefy issue. Each one is about 60 pages
Oh,
long.
wow. Yeah.
So it's not something that you can just sit and go through. And actually, the idea is not to like sit and start with page 1 and end with page 60. It's really my desire for it just to be like a meal, something that you either take with you on the road, on a long drive, in the
Mm-hmm.
car, and like you go through it, and maybe kids in the back seat, like, hey, go work through an activity or discuss something as a family, or if they sit around the dinner table and like they open something and it just calls their name. So the idea is for it just to be there and for them to interact. There is no right or wrong way. Like they can start anywhere. It's not a lesson plan that you need to go through. There is
Okay.
a lot of humor. Like my secret mission is like to have families laughing and smiling and giggling. So I really want there to be laughter around the dinner table or in the car when they interact. And I want it to be like, I think laughter is such a gift from God. It's also
It
such
is.
a binding experience. So I really want it to be there. Also, part of the magazine's personality, we're avoiding a teachy and preachy style. So there are stories, there are activities, but you will not find, and now this means this. It's more like a parable approach where we leave it with the family and it's up to them to figure out. So, what does this really mean? How can we
Mm-hmm.
apply it to our life? It's like when Jesus would tell parables, and half of the time disciples had no idea what he just said. They were scratching their heads and like, so Jesus about that mustard
Right.
seed and the tree, what exactly? And I think there is that dimension of curiosity
Mm-hmm.
that's missing in our Christian upbringing. Like we give children facts, doctrines, catechesis, they
Mm-hmm.
memorize, they embrace. But with this magazine, I wanted to take a different route.
Mm.
Let's just make them talk and explore and wonder and actually sometimes scratch their heads. So, what exactly does it mean for us? Not to confuse them, but just to give a fresh angle and then yeah, let's go deeper with that they want to understand it, whether we
Yeah.
talk about kindness or prayer. And then another aspect of the magazine, I wanted it to be outward focused because so many times we make our faith about us, but I just wanted like, hey, let's look around. What is God doing around us where we as a family can join Him? So every issue will have like a little mini mission or a little challenge for the family. Like in the first issue, it's all about the kindness. So there is like throw a kindness party, invite some of your neighborhood friends and like throw a kindness party. And there are some ideas what they can do to celebrate kindness, but then as a group, an impact that they could make on their neighborhood, on their community, on the family in need, so that it's also experiential. So every
That's a
magazine
great
has,
idea.
yeah, a sprinkle of laughter, a sprinkle of just curiosity, like wondering, asking questions. And then the third element is really looking around, like where can we have an impact as a family?
I love that. I think that's so important and so good that you're including all of that. So, where can they find the magazine? Where can they get their subscription?
Yes, it's whatsfordinnermag.com.
Okay.
That's our website. I strongly encourage you to check it out, and you can order an individual issue, or you can buy a subscription, which is 4 issues per year.
Okay. That's awesome.
Also, I just wanted to bless your listeners. So, everyone who is listening to this podcast, I want to send a free magazine to them.
Oh, wow.
So, if they go to whatsfordinnermag.com and put the first issue in the cart, and then in the discount code, put Collide Kids. It will bring the price of a magazine to $0. I just asked that they cover the cost of shipping, and I would be honored if my magazine ends up on their doorstep, on their dinner table, in their car, and just to see what comes out of it. And if they like it or love it, they can subscribe to it.
I love that. And that is such a kind thing for you to do. So I'm so excited. I'm excited for my issue to come in, but I'm so excited for all of our listeners to get a chance to get a free copy. And What a blessing that is that you're sharing this. Dema, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing all of this and for this generous gift that you're giving us. I just love talking with you today. Before I let you go, I always like to ask my guests to share a memory from when they were a kid. So do you have a memory you want to share with us today?
Yeah, I have many sad memories, but I probably will save it for counseling. I'll share a happy memory, and it has to do with my dad. And my dad left me and my mom when I was 6. So this memory is very precious to me. I was about 7 years old, and my dad was in and out of my life. And at that stage, he kept promising me that he'll buy me a bike, like my first grown-up bike that didn't have any training wheels, that just a big boy bike. And believe it or not, he fulfilled his promise. He brought the bike, but he had no time to teach me how to ride the bike. So for a while, it's been sitting on the balcony in our apartment. And man, I would just look at that bike and I would touch it and just sit on it. And just when will my dad come and help me? And a few months later, he did come and say, hey, let's do it. And I just remember that memory of going out on the street in Kiev, and just me getting on that bike, and it's wobbly, shaky. I have no idea what I'm doing, but he is standing behind me and he's holding this bike. And there is that balance, and there is this moment when it all makes sense. Life functions as it should be, like I'm sitting and I'm in control, and he's pushing me and letting me go, but he is right behind me, and if I go to the left or to the right and I'm about to fall, he's catching me. And it was for me more than just learning to ride a bike. I just remember being filled with so much pride and joy, like I wanted to scream, like, look, I have a father. Look, I have somebody who is right here to help me, who believes in me and supports me. And unfortunately, it's the only memory I have of my dad that's positive, but it's the one that I cherish, and it meant a lot to me. That number one, kept his promise, but number two, just that moment where it's something new and unknown and overwhelming, mastering a new skill, but he was right there, and he kept me steady, and he helped me to believe that I could, and I did, and it was very precious.
That is precious. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Well, Dema, again, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was fantastic, and I hope all of the people that are listening today will go and get your magazine.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Kristen.
Wow, I am so inspired by stories like Dema, where someone feels a spark or an idea that they believe God is telling them to do something, even if it's never been done before. And what an amazing resource that he has put together. I just love that we have this opportunity to share in this, and it's a resource for families to enjoy together. You know, I loved hearing the beautiful story of the woman who does the illustrations for the magazine, who lives in Kiev. Her name is Katya, and the artwork that she does is truly unique and very special. So if you want to see it, go to their website or go to my social media, and I'll post some of the examples. So go check out their website. It's whatsfordinnermag.com, and you can see lots of examples of her illustrations, just some amazing work. You can also get your free magazine issue with the code COLLIDEKIDS. So go to whatsfordinnermag.com, and when you're checking out, type in the code COLLIDEKIDS for a free magazine issue. You guys, this is such a generous gift, and I really hope that you will take advantage of this free offer. It's so great. I think your family's really going to enjoy this. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. This is the part of the show where you get to be on the podcast. So here is my friend Kayla.
1 Thessalonians 5:11. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. 1 Thessalonians 5:11.
Thank you for sharing that, Kayla. That is such a great verse. We do need to build each other up. So true. Well, hey, if you would like to be on the podcast just like Kayla was and share your favorite Bible verse or a joke you love or a song you like to sing, you can head over to my website, COLLIDEKIDSPodcast.com, and click the tab at the top that says Kids Only, and you can record it right there. It's really simple. Or you can find information about how to send it to me through my social media. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod, and I would love if you would follow me there as well. You can also support the podcast by leaving a rating and a review on whatever podcast app you're using, and be sure to share this episode with friends and family and tell them why you like to listen. And anytime you think about it, I greatly appreciate your prayers as well. Well, I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope you really are enjoying these summer days and getting to relax and eat popsicles and hang out by the pool or do fun things in your backyard. And most importantly, you're spending time together as a family. Well, in case no one has told you today, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, and do побачення. Thanks for listening. Do побачення.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between, and all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.